I was wondering if Christina is one of those few people who truly embodies, who truly is unconditional love. And then I've got another question regarding her body, because she makes this amazing discoveries, like her body is able to blend in with the background, those kind of things. So it makes me wonder about who she truly is. Is her body truly human, or is she a hybrid or something else? Thank you. Bye-bye.
First of all humans are hybridized. And therefore, some people may be willing at this point, or able at this point, to tap more strongly into those hybrid genes in a way that will allow them to expand their senses and do things that others may not be able to do, that might seem unusual, but are simply representative of the abilities you all have if you would, in fact, learn to tap into that genetic structure that's connected to the cosmos in the same way. That's all we will say about that at this time.
Good day, Bashar.
Good day, good day.
It's always a pleasure to speak to you, so thank you.
And you as well. It is our passion and our pleasure.
So thank you for those sharings. I'm always, for some reason, still amazed at the synchronicity at what you talk about and what I'm interested in discussing. So,
all right. If it's fun for you to be amazed, you may continue to do so, even though it becomes something more common in your reality experience.
Yeah, it's a good place to be. So with that in mind, I've been placing more of my attention and focus on this idea of the Earth and climate change as one way to look at it.
Yes.
And some of the things you've mentioned about these layers bring up some questions about, I've been drawn to study more of this topic, and I'm reading stories of what some people are doing to the Earth or extracting from the Earth, that maybe their relationship to the Earth is not one of, it's not symbiotic.
Yes.
And one of the thoughts that came to me is that there's this denial that there is something that is negative about that action, and that it's a denial of oneself.
Yes, of course, always.
And so when you talk about these layers, and specifically the thing that came to my mind was the archetypal layer, is it on the one side, the positive side for me, when I read these stories, I have a negative response that makes me want to do something positive, but
yes.
At the same time I need to, or not need to, but those stories are not happening in my reality, but they're still causing me to want to do something different.
Yes, there is always the importance of taking an action that is representative. When you see something that you don't prefer, take the action that is representative of what you do, because that's what navigates you closer and closer every day to shifting into the version of Earth that you prefer to experience ultimately.
And I think that's where I'm maybe tying some of what I've heard from you and from Abraham, is that what I'm trying to now focus on is I'm seeking out the positive things. I'm looking for people that are trying to make a change, stories that celebrate how we can reconnect with the Earth.
Yes.
And at the same time, I guess I should be mindful not to invalidate these other stories that may come across, I might perceive as negative.
Yes, you can observe them neutrally and recognize that they're negative without necessarily invalidating the pathways that people are taking, because they may have to learn things in a very different way. And if you invalidate it, then you take away, in a sense, your ability to see that they're actually capable of learning something in a positive way from it.
Okay. And so the collective shell,
yes.
which is this, I guess, embodiment of these bigger energies that we have named in different ways. Maybe I'm kind of making strange connections here, but I realize that just being in a place of gratitude, reading
yes.
something about an amazing forest and how they all connect and communicate with each other without ever having been there or experienced it, I have this sense of gratitude, and I wonder if in a way I'm connecting with some of these shells because of the energy that they represent.
Yes, of course. But again, that doesn't take away the ability to take actual physical actions as well, mm-hmm. which then anchor them into your reality.
Yeah, it's that's something that I'm also exploring is what actions can I take?
Well, it's very simple. You can very simply start some action that is representative of the restoration of the natural balance of your planet. I mean, if nothing else, go plant some trees.
Yes. And one last question on this is, I think part of these different layers is the idea of even being aware of them. I think there's a
Yes.
not seeing as such. And I thought was interesting is that we are putting these things into the environment, whether it's nitrogen into the water or carbon dioxide into the air, and they are invisible to
Yes.
most people. And I thought that was interesting in that we don't see the cause, but we see the effect
Yes.
generally.
Yes.
Um,
Well,
And
just like in the manifestation of your physical reality, you're not always aware of the belief system. Sometimes your beliefs, being unconscious, are invisible to you, but you always see the effect in physical reflections.
so we are seeing the mirror, the reflection of whatever the actions may be, whether they're ours or someone else's.
Whatever the choices are, always has a reflection.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so it's not so much about, because part of me wonders if as we move into higher frequencies, whether we would actually be able to perceive those things.
Yes. You
Yeah.
would be more aware of what is invisible to you. You'll become transparent to yourself with regard to your belief systems, and you may actually have your senses extend to the point where you have some kind of visible energy representation of things and elements that are invisible to you now. Yes.
And connecting with, say, the elementals is one part or the beginning of that journey. It's starting to be
It can
comfortable with some of
be,
these.
because they can guide you into how to rebalance yourselves, because they are the very essence of balance in nature.
And this is, I think, I mean, I know the answer to this question, but I have doubts in it, and I know I said it was my last question, in that I don't believe I've ever seen an elemental per se. I feel a lot more connected with nature and the environment more recently than I have in the past.
Yes.
And I still have gratitude for these things that I may not perceive immediately.
Yes.
But I guess there's a part of me that wishes that I were able to have an experience that I could say I truly believe or saw.
All right.
Something along those lines.
Well, again, it's more likely when you actually balance all the energy within yourself by taking the actions that are actually representative of the energy you say you prefer, thus allowing all levels of you to work and move forward in balance. Then again, by following the formula, you raise your frequency and make it more likely to allow things that are invisible to you, including beings on different levels, to become visible to you. You don't have to insist on it, but you do have to take the actions so that you can move forward in a completely holistic, balanced way in order for all those levels to be more perceivable to you. So the paradox is you have to take more physical actions on the energy you prefer in order to see the non-physical things more clearly.
And would choosing not to share this aspect of myself with those around me be a way of getting in the way of that alignment?
It depends. If it's not appropriate to share something with someone you know simply doesn't think that way or believe that way, it's not about trying to convince them, so it's not like you have to share. But the idea is to make sure that you are moving forward towards something rather than avoiding something that is actually something that could help you. But you have to make that determination yourself. What's appropriate and what's not.
Bashar, as always, thank you so much. Much love.
You are so welcome. Our unconditional love to you as well.
Hanging out with children, and they're following their passion, and it's really fun and
Yes.
exciting.
All right.
Thank you so much for that. So I have a daughter, and I'm just wondering what she tells me about a past life when she lived with Jesus, and
Yes.
Jesus was her brother.
Yes.
Can you tell me more about what she's actually remembering?
Well, again, she may be making an energetic connection to that being for a number of reasons. Remember, there's no such thing as a true past life. It's simply that all things exist simultaneously, and a person will connect vibrationally and energetically to whatever and whoever who exists simultaneously in another time frame is representative of the theme that they're exploring in this life. So if that particular individual, part of Jesus's family, is somebody that has a frequency that aids and assists her in the theme she chose to explore in this life, the connection will simply be automatic. And it may come through as if it's a memory, but that's just the space-time linear way of looking at those connections that happen, because you don't necessarily know or believe that everyone actually exists at the same time.
Okay, because she talked about this when she was young, and she will still bring it up now.
Yes.
So
well, how old is she?
What's that?
How old is she?
She's 8.
All right. That's still well within the ability of children to make those connections.
Okay, yeah, and where she's still talking about it, I feel like that she's still connecting with either the energy of Jesus himself or something to do with that vibration is still relevant right now.
Yes, well, and again, like we spoke of earlier, that's part of the collective shell. Therefore, children being born, and that have been being born for quite some time, remember, aren't forgetting as much of who they are and have the ability more easily than many adults to tap into the different shells as they need them and the different archetypes as they need to. So it's not uncommon now for children to be speaking of things that may seem strange to adults, but are actually quite natural for them to be capable of doing to aid and assist and guide them and adults in your reality into understanding more of the nature of your overall consciousness.
Okay, great. Yeah, she is guiding me a lot. And so part of this new education system, my daughter and I have been doing this really cool thing called world schooling, where we're traveling, and we actually bought an RV. And we'll joke around and say, like, oh, our RV is like our spaceship.
Yes.
So, and I've been listening to you talk about the hybrids that are in these like Tic Tac spaceships.
Yes.
So I was wondering if you could just, and even if the hybrid children want to, speak through you, or I'm just trying to make a comparison to what we have, our motorhome, right? We fill it with gas, we can drive it around, we park it at a campground.
Yes.
We have different tanks that everything filters through. Can you compare like our RV to like how the hybrids ship? Like, do they have tanks? Do they have gas?
No, they don't have gas, and you should know that.
Okay.
The idea,
fuel,
again,
I guess I should say.
Well, not really. The idea is they tap directly into electromagnetic and gravitic energy and cosmic energy to move the craft. In a sense, they travel on different forms of light. But the idea is you can certainly identify with their craft and identify with the idea of your RV being like their craft and that they transport you where you wish to go. So you can certainly overlap those vibrations if you wish, if it helps you maintain the vibrational state in your consciousness that makes it easier for you to connect to the hybrids. You can always do that. But your RV is nothing like their ships. Their ships are nothing like your RV in terms of its technology.
That I totally figured. Do they have like a separate place when they're actually driving it, and then do they have beds like in a different section where they sleep?
Some ships do, some ships don't, because they're only for temporary transportation. Again, just like some of your automobiles, they don't necessarily have to have a bed. It doesn't mean you couldn't fall asleep in them, but it's not exactly what you prefer to sleep in. So some of them do, some of them don't. It just depends on their function.
I see. Okay. So if I'm thinking about the Tic Tac crafts, maybe that would be more like an airplane that's taking them from wherever they are to their
In some ways, yes, more like that.
Okay, and then they go to like their headquarters under the sea, and then they have.
Yes.
Are they sleeping? Are they eating? Are they going
Sometimes.
to the bathroom?
Well, yes, sometimes. Now, again, their systems are far more refined than the humans on Earth. So they don't necessarily eat as much. They don't eliminate as much. They don't sleep as much. But the idea is that sometimes they do all these things. Nevertheless, It's a similar experience, but in a way, less of what humans do.
Okay. Thank you so much, Bashar.
You are welcome so much. Good day.
Good day.
Hello. Bashar, my question is, are we controlled by a microorganism in our brain? Thanks.
No.
Oh, good day, Bashar. Hello.
What would you like to discuss?
Well, I'm excited to have this opportunity to talk with you today. So I have experienced the power of the formula that, I learned about it in 2013. And right away, I had a desire to have a private session with you. I didn't have any money. I booked a ticket to California. And within like a week, somebody on Instagram, I don't know who, decided to buy like $8,500 worth of my artwork without even seeing it. Boom, done.
That's how it happens.
My intention. I'm so aware, and it's been such a ride since then, getting to experience the synchronicity. That is like my excitement, my joy, and my passion. Like just being aware of the synchronicity, following the trail.
Yes.
Incredible things happen.
Absolutely.
And I'm all good with that.
Yes, there are so many more doors that can open through which the things you need can come than most people on your planet are aware of.
Okay, I am aware of the doors. My question is, I'm not allowing myself to walk through the ones that I know that are there.
Why not? What are you afraid of?
Well, I don't know. Like,
yes, you
I'm
do.
Getting better. I'm getting better at the formula. Just like, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, the very last part of the formula about staying in a positive state.
Yes.
What would seem what was happening was a bunch of so-called negative events, and I just knew it. And I'm like, nope, something better is going to happen. I just know it. I could feel it.
Yes.
And not only did something better, and it was like a cumulative, like supposed negative things. I'm like, oh, something really good is going to happen.
Yes.
And something even better than I expected happened. So
exactly.
I know that vibration.
Yes.
Okay.
So then why would you be afraid to walk through any of the doors?
It's not that I'm afraid to walk through them. It's just I know they're there and I can't seem to find them, and I know obviously.
But you will find them through synchronicity, just like the person that bought your artwork. You didn't necessarily know that door was there, but it will reveal itself in perfect timing when it needs to. You don't have to be aware in that sense and know exactly where the doors are. That's the details. Let the details take care of themselves. You just have to know the doors are there.
Okay, so with that being said then, how can I distinguish the difference of knowing and believing that those doors are there, right?
Well, you've already had the experience that they are, so why don't you know that?
Right, no, here's the question though.
Yes.
I mean, like, how do I know then if something's just not relevant for me to experience in this lifetime?
Then
like,
you won't experience it.
But what if I still then have the desire for something? That means then there's the door, or?
Well, it depends on the reason for the desire. It can be a recognition that something is relevant, or it can simply be, again, a fear-based belief telling you that you need this thing when you don't. So you have to be honest within yourself to know the difference between true excitement and anxiety. What's the insistence about? Because desire, in the negative sense, is insistence. So are you insisting that this thing must happen?
That's the thing. It's not so much an insistence.
As it is.
When I'm not in alignment, it comes from other sources. Like I have to have this in order, whatever.
All right.
But when I'm in alignment, I know, okay, I'm eternal, so it doesn't really matter. This is my experience here.
Yes.
But if I were to experience it here, it would even be better.
You're making an insistent judgment by saying it would be even better. You don't know that. You don't know that. That's the first thing that people have to realize when we talk about the aspect of the formula that says no assumption, no insistence. What we're actually saying is, if you're really honest with yourself, you realize you don't know what the best outcome actually needs to look like. So don't think you do. That's insistence.
Agreed. And I hear you in those moments
All right.
in my life.
All right.
But I don't know,
But what?
there's just like something else I know.
Then let it happen. If it's relevant for you, it will happen. Get on with your life. Do what you can act on. Don't forget, all versions of your excitement are interconnected and will lead to other versions, even if they don't appear that to be connected. Even if you have no idea how one thing could lead to another, they're all interconnected if they are truly representative of your passion. So just get on about doing what it is you can do. Well, then you don't need these other questions if you understand that.
Okay.
Because everything that is relevant for you will unfold.
Right. Well, okay. Well, obviously, then when I'm not in alignment, then I have those questions. But
exactly.
When I am, okay, that's why it's like, okay, I'm right.
That's one of your first clues as to when you are or are not in alignment.
Yeah. All right. Then while you're in front of me, so to speak, can I ask you if you have a permission slip that will help me get out of my way when I'm in those moments that I haven't ventured into yet?
Well, all you have to do is ask yourself what you're getting out of being in those moments that aren't in alignment. Because you always do things, you always choose things that you believe are to your benefit. So ask yourself, as a permission slip, what benefit am I getting from this? But you have to be very honest in your answer. Because
how do I do that better?
It's very easy. Just pay attention.
How?
You have to be honest. You have to be transparent with yourself. It has to be okay for you to realize you're doing something you don't prefer to do, and let that be okay. So the idea again is, when you ask, well, if I'm doing something that's out of alignment, what is the benefit of that? Then just sit with it and use your imagination and say, well, what am I getting out of this? Well, maybe it's safer than the alternative. Maybe I believe that. Maybe the negative belief is convincing me that if I actually went forward, something worse would happen. And it's safer to just stay where I am, even though I don't prefer it. You have to use your imagination to examine all the probabilities of why you're choosing to do what you're doing. That's all you have to do. Just be in that process. You'll find the answer if you're willing to. That's all it takes.
All right.
So, when those moments happen, don't rush past them. Don't get on with something else. Don't ignore them. Stay with that and take the time to do the self-investigation and ask the question, what am I getting out of doing something that I don't prefer to do? What is the negative belief convincing me here of that isn't necessarily true?
Oh,
stay with
you
it.
just said the perfect words.
There you go. There you go.
It's just staying in the moment. That's the key for me. Just being with that.
Yes. That's when they come up. That's all there is. There's nothing more important to do than deal with what comes up in the moment.
Right.
Nothing. Nowhere else you need to be that's more important.
Oh my goodness. I love the validation. You're amazing. Okay. I love you, Bashar.
Our unconditional love to you as well. Good day.
Bye.
2037. Have these times changed?
Yes, as we have said, it broadened to starting this year, 2023. Still going to about 2033, with other levels, other markers occurring between 2033 and 2040. However, we have also recently said that there is a 90% potential for a major contact event to occur at the end of 2026 or the beginning of 2027, though we are not allowed to discuss exactly what conditions will bring this about.
Okay, thank you. You previously spoke about hybrids living in vacant housing situations for a short time. Do these hybrids interact with human beings during their visits or observe us? I would like to create a safe and welcoming place for them to interact with me at their discretion.
Yes, they still do use vacated places temporarily. On rare occasions, they may chance an interaction with a local human. You may do whatever you wish. We cannot guarantee they will use the space that you provide.
My 10-year-old daughter is wondering if hybrid children are excited to come be with the animals of Earth. If so, which animals are they most excited by?
They are excited to interact with the animals of the earth as well as other forms of life, humans, trees, so on and so forth. They are most attracted in general, although they are excited about all forms of life, most attracted to cats, rabbits, and foxes.
You've mentioned that the hybrid children are learning about us and how to acclimatize to our society. Can you share something about them with us that would help us understand and acclimate to them better?
They are not so proficient with the idea of social norms or pleasantries in terms of the idea of etiquettes. So the idea, even for some of them, of learning to sit and eat on a plate with a fork and a spoon are alien concepts to them that many of them are learning. The idea of exchanging what you call small talk is still relatively foreign to them. They see the idea of small talk as something that procrastinates getting in the way of direct communication, which of course they're mostly used to doing telepathically. So they may seem quite withdrawn, quite silent for a while, until they get used to the understanding of why small talk matters to humans as a way of establishing familiarity and sort of testing the waters as to what another person is all about and in what direction the conversation might be interested in going. So they will have to get used to those kinds of social norms on your planet, even though at the same time, humans can also get used to the idea of using their own telepathy more often.
Can you describe what happened when your society transformed into a fully telepathic society? What is it like when one suddenly shifts from not so telepathic to completely telepathic?
It is like awakening into a dream where there are multiple realities speaking to you at the same time, and it involved a process of stabilization that allowed us to differentiate what was and what was not relevant for us at any given moment in terms of information pouring in from many different sources. So we had what you might refer to as a filtering time after the awakening, after 3 days of Shakana, awoken us to the idea of telepathic connectiveness, and we had to go through what might be, for some individuals, a few days, weeks, or months of filtering until such time as we allowed what was relevant to come to us and filtered out what was not. So it took some adjustment, but it didn't take too long.
And can you tell us, why do humans need regular soap and water baths to maintain hygiene and health, while so many animals on the planet don't need such practices? And how did the Greys clean themselves?
All animals will usually take advantage of water sources to clean themselves. And you have animals such as cats that clean themselves regularly. Different animals have different ways of doing so, and different needs of doing so, different levels of need. Just look more closely, more deeply at the animal world, and you will see that many of them have different ways of preening, cleaning, bathing, so on and so forth. The Greys, once they mutated from human to Grey, had very simple systems that relied mostly on the ingestion of liquids that were purged through the pores of the skin in terms of perspiration, and simply wiped themselves down with what would essentially be damp cloths. Sometimes, later on, they would perhaps pass through a cleansing mist.
Is one of the signs that we are biologically connected with ETs the idea that we don't seem so well adapted to our planet in terms of clothing, needing to bathe ourselves, and those ideas?
No, not really. Remember that the Earth game has its rules and regulations about what is necessary for playing that game, having that experience. You all have extraterrestrial connections, and from time to time, those connections can rise to the surface and make it appear as if you are a stranger in a strange land, not exactly relating to the idea of the Earth reality. But the things you are describing do not so much have to do with your connections to extraterrestrials. They have more to do with the idea of what it means to play the Earth game.
And in previous transmission, you mentioned the idea of trinary beats when referring to Essassani music. Could you tell us more about these trinary beats?
To you, they would seem very simplistic. Ba-ba-ba, 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 which underscores most of our music. But to us, we are hearing all sorts of harmonics and reverberations of frequencies within those 3 beats. So to us, it sounds a little bit more like ba 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 ba, and a more complex structure can be founded on what to you might seem to be 3 simple beats.
Are you familiar with the Star Visitor Sanctuary in Hawaii, and can you speak on its significance and usages?
Not at this time.
And how are you able to talk to multiple Earths at one time?
Time for us is not what it is for you. The idea of what may be taking place from your perspective at a certain time is taking place from another perspective at a completely different time. Our consciousness can be fragmented in many different directions simultaneously because we are, as we say, mostly connected now to spirit, and spirit can see things from multiple points of view, multiple dimensional perspectives. So it's just a matter of what we have gotten used to in terms of creating an interaction, creating a connection that simply, when necessary, goes to whatever dimensional time frame is appropriate and relevant for the communication that needs to occur.
Okay, thank you. Some reports of the white tic-tac shaped craft describe a couple of small protrusions sticking out. Do those craft, in fact, have any protrusions?
Not permanently. Protrusions, sensors, can stick out when they need them to and be retracted also when required.
Can you tell us about the purpose of them?
Not at this time.
Okay. I know you say that all prayers are answered. If I pray to ETs for help with a personal challenge, can they help me if they see fit?
Do not pray to extraterrestrials. Prayer is a state of grace, a state of gratitude in the present for what you already are receiving. It's not a matter of asking for more than you're already being given. You are being given everything you can be given, all the help you can be given from extraterrestrials, from whom it is appropriate to give, from spirit beings and guides, from all that is, from sources of your own spirit family, soul family. You are being given everything you can be given. The idea of praying is about staying in a state of present grace and gratitude for what you are receiving so that you can become more aware of the help you're already receiving. You do not need to ask for more cannot be given than what is already given. You are being given everything that can be given. Open yourself up in your state of prayer to receive and be aware of what you're already getting.
Okay. Is it possible that contact could be in dreams? This person keeps having dreams of various UFO sightings and even had one last night.
Most contact events will occur in dream time. Again, it is a slightly altered version of physical reality, a slightly altered dimension in which it is easier for extraterrestrial and spirit beings to interact with human beings when their normal daily waking consciousness is set aside a bit. So these things are actually happening and are actually representative of memories to the best that your physical mind can interpret them with the dream language. But most contacts at this point occur in the dream state, in the dream time, yes.
And this person is saying that they once experienced a communication from their deceased dog through a ceiling fan. Both the dog and the fan are white, and they wanted to know how a being can communicate through an inanimate object. I understand they're saying that they understand how we do that in physical reality through gift giving, for example, but how do spirits do this? Can you give us any insight on that?
Spirits will use whatever object, because remember, objects are just projections of consciousness. The idea of the spirit of the animal may have recognized that the observation by the human of the ceiling fan allowed the human to be in a perfect state of receptivity for the animal to communicate the vibration of love and connection that the animal was attempting to do. So, like any spirit using synchronicity in the things, the objects, the projections of consciousness that are already in front of your face, making it easier for them to make a connection because of your attentiveness to them, because of your ability to perceive these objects and accept them in your reality, then yes, an animal or any being in spirit can utilize an object as a way of communication.
How is it that, and how is it we now have that person's past if we have not replaced them? Can you, please, if you can, go into detail here, as I've heard it explained before, and still I can't seem to allow it to stick.
The reason it's not sticking is that your concept is erroneous in the idea that things are stuck where they are and you're replacing it. Like it's not moving too. Everything moves together. Everything moves at once. You shift, they shift. The idea is that you're all constantly shifting. So nothing is ever standing still. You're not replacing anyone. You may be taking over, euphemistically speaking, the spot that they used to occupy, but they don't occupy it anymore. Again, look at a stream or a river. Waves move through it and all of that, and water flows and all of that. But one water molecule is, in a sense, not taking over from another water molecule. The other water molecule that was there a moment ago has moved on downstream. So it's all moving simultaneously. Nothing is being replaced because nothing is standing still to be replaced by something else coming in. Everything is moving simultaneously.
Thank you, Bashar. We have a bunch of questions about animals.
Yes.
Do animals have silver cords, and do they understand death?
Animals and any living thing in that sense, and even inanimate objects, have types of energetic connections you could refer to, if you wish, as a type of silver cord. They're a little bit different than those experienced or created by humans, but the idea nevertheless is that everything physical has a connection to the non-physical energetically, and you could refer to that connection as the silver cord, from individual physical mind to higher mind, physical being to non-physical being. Animals understand death very clearly because they do not experience the idea consciously as such an abrupt transition as humans have because of their belief systems. For animals, the idea of what you call physical life and what you call non-physical death is a much smoother transition for most than what many humans believe to be the case. They don't see such a large separation because many of them have the senses to peer into non-physical reality and consider it part of their daily experience as reality. So the shift for them is not seemingly as abrupt as it may be for many humans who hold on to the belief system when they die that non-physical reality is so much different. Physical reality and non-physical reality are very close in vibration because physical reality isn't real. It's just a projection of consciousness. It's just, in a sense, a dream that the non-physical you is having in spirit. Therefore, again, similar to the idea that sleeping physically and waking up physically aren't that much different with regard to what's happening in physical reality. One moment you're lying down and you're focused in a different way, and the next moment you're sitting up and focused in a different way. The transition between physical life and death is only that thin, just like lying down and then sitting up. For animals, it is that smooth. For trees, it is even smoother. For minerals, it is smoother still. No matter how dense a mineral may be, because you consider it to be inanimate, and many humans consider minerals to be unconscious, which isn't the case, they simply use consciousness in a different way, piggybacking on your consciousness to understand themselves as a reflection of your consciousness. For them, even though they seem to be dense physically, they're actually quite close to non-physical reality because they're not interjecting themselves consciously in the same way you are with the idea of the kind of dense thematic experience that humans choose to experience physical reality to be. They are simply there, in a sense, as what you might call background reflections. Things that carry meaning, things that carry information, but because they are pure information, they are not so separated from the idea of non-physical reality, which is all about patterns of information from one point of view. Does that answer your question?
Yes. And I have a follow-up question to that. Since it's kind of an easy transition for animals, easier than for humans. Last week we talked about euthanasia. Yes. And how, there's sometimes guilt about having to euthanize one of your pets. If it's an easy transition, wouldn't the pets just lay down and die when they were ready?
If it didn't necessarily mean anything for the human to experience that transition, most of them simply would. But again, remember, they are part of your family, and there may be purpose in the human experiencing the transition in the way that it typically happens. It's not just about the animal's transition. It's about what the human also experiences that helps them in their journey by going through that experience with the animal.
Okay. So there is a purpose that they experience together when there's
everything is an orchestration. There are no accidents. Everything is an orchestration. All you have to do is look deep for the meanings and what you're getting out of it and why you're experiencing it the way that you are experiencing it along with the animal. Because it allows you to go through certain processes of grieving and letting go and reconnecting on a different level, and many other reasons for why it may be happening the way that it's happening. An animal on its own, out in what you say, the wild, may just simply leave. If there is no purpose for it to interact with any other kinds of beings, it may just simply leave.
Okay. This question is about spiders. Are spiders closer to their silver cords than humans, since they weave literal silver cords throughout their lives?
It's not that they're closer to them. They may have a different kind of understanding since they are the reflection of interconnections and webs, but it's not that they're closer. They may just have a different understanding, a deeper understanding, a different kind of relationship and connection to the idea of any kind of connection or cord that would be reflective of the idea of webs and interconnectivity.
Can cats and dogs communicate with human infants in the womb? Can they sense the silver cords of fetuses?
Yes.
It's a longer question, but very good. Scientists today attribute an animal's ability for consciousness and self-recognition through the mirror test, where they see if a given animal can recognize themselves in the mirror. The animals that can do this include bottlenose dolphins, great apes, elephants, and more. However, I intuitively feel as though this isn't a completely accurate measurement for consciousness and self-recognition. What would you say this self-recognition mirror test is actually measuring or showing, and why are some animals capable of it and some are not? And what would be a more accurate test for self-recognition or consciousness?
Well, let me put it this way. The mirror test is an accurate test for self-awareness. The idea as to whether or not an animal recognizes itself is not necessarily the end-all be-all for determining self-awareness, because an animal that doesn't necessarily recognize the reflection as itself still may see the reflection as another animal. And for one animal to see something and consider it to be other than itself is still self-awareness. The animal would have to have absolutely no recognition whatsoever of anything in the mirror in order for it to, quote unquote, fail the test of self-awareness. But if the animal sees the image, even if the animal considers it to be another animal, you cannot necessarily consider something to be other and know it is not yourself without a sense of self-awareness. The animals that do recognize themselves in the way that humans do in a mirror simply have stronger connections to the idea of the expression of human consciousness, whereas other animals may not necessarily have such a strong connection to the expression of human consciousness in the way that humans experience it. But the idea of the mirror test is accurate for recognizing self-awareness as long as the animal either recognizes itself or thinks that the reflection is another animal. Both are indications of self-awareness as opposed to what's in the mirror or in conjunction with what's in the mirror. Both are the result of self-awareness. And in that sense, the scientists are mistaken that non-recognition of self somehow fails to indicate self-awareness. So both do indicate self-awareness and therefore is accurate on that level.
Yes, because I noticed my cat notices herself in the mirror, but I don't know if she knows it's her or another cat.
It doesn't matter because, again, even recognizing something as other than the self is a recognition of the self.
Right.
Otherwise, there would be no recognition of anything.
Right.
Never were that person. My question is, why is it that ourselves and those who are close to us remember the past of the former version, especially if it is something that may not be preferred? Thank you for your time.
Because it is still something you're creating in the present that is relevant. That's why. You create the history over and over and over in the present as long as elements of it remain relevant to the theme that you're choosing to explore. So even though you're not the same person and you don't have the same history, you are recreating something similar every moment as long as it remains relevant to your theme.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Thank you so much. I just had a couple of questions, and thank you for being willing to interact with me. I appreciate it.
It is our passion and our pleasure to do so.
I was wondering if my daughter and or I are hybrids, and you may or may not be willing to answer that question.
All humans are hybridized. There is no such thing as a human that is not. But you are not hybrids in the sense of the ones that live on spaceships. You are not hybrids in the sense of the ones that are created through the hybridization program. But many humans have had genetic alterations. by having encounters in different layers of reality that hybridize you further. But the idea is that you are not the hybrids being created on the spaceships in the hybridization program, but you are part of the hybridization program that is going on Earth for the evolutional purpose of humanity.
Thank you. Do I have a specific gift or one that needs to be remembered or awakened in this lifetime?
Well, what are you passionate about doing?
I don't know. This seems to be a very...
All right. Remember that when we ask you what you're passionate about, it doesn't have to be a life-spanning career or a large-scale project. We assume right now that you are having this conversation with us because this was the most exciting choice you could make at this particular moment. Yes or no?
Yes.
Well, that's all you have to do. When this conversation is over, look at all the regular options available to you, the ordinary options, and just pick the one that has even just a little bit more attractiveness, more curiosity, more excitement, more passion in it than any other, even just by a little bit, and act on that first. Take it as far as you can till you can take it no further. When the excitement naturally wanes and you make sure you're not the one dampening the excitement, then you look for the next thing that contains more excitement than anything else and act on it next. And you just keep doing that. Then it will usually snowball into bigger and bigger opportunities to act on your excitement. And then you will be following the formula and being of service to humanity in that way. Does that make sense? Do you understand?
Yes. Thank you.
So it's not a big mystery. It's not difficult to do. Just do it a step at a time. Keep it simple. And it will build and bring you, through synchronicity, more opportunities to act on your excitement, possibly in bigger and bigger ways. Yes?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That's how it works. So does that remove the mystery? Does that remove any confusion?
Yes.
All right. Is that something that you believe you can do?
Yes, sir.
Oh, sir. So formal.
Sorry, it's a habit.
All right, ma'am.
In this lifetime or in my dreams, I've interacted with several different types of beings, and I'm wondering why there are so many different forms. I feel like some people have just one that they focus in on, be they past souls or something like that. Am I meant to interact with a particular type, or am I just...
You all have many different guides and many different connections. Sometimes one will be predominant, but at other times others will take turns based on the reason why they're connecting to you, the reason why they're helping you, whatever your connection may be with them, and of course based on their skill set as well, because different guides have different skills, different reasons for assisting you. So it just depends on what's going on at any given moment in your life as to who you may attract to be of assistance to you, be it an extraterrestrial being, an extra-dimensional being, a spirit guide, a member of your soul family, a parallel reality version of yourself that is aware of how to connect with you in this way. It can shift and change dynamically all the time. Some people will maintain a connection to maybe one specific version of a guide, but that doesn't mean it's always the case.
Thank you. And one of those was, maybe it sounds odd, maybe it doesn't, was a mechanical spider. It sounds very strange, but it was above my face while I was sleeping, and I awoke feeling it right above my face at two different points in my life. And it was one entity being thing that actually created a lot of fear in me because I was not expecting it to be there, and I didn't know if it felt real in the moment. Yes. But I realized you said that when we're sleeping, we're awake, and we're awake, we're sleeping, essentially. So I'm just wondering if you know the purpose of why it presented itself to me.
Well, it is a projection of consciousness that took the form that you say gave you an opportunity to experience fear within you. So it allowed you to practice transforming that fear.
Got it.
It gave you an opportunity to do so.
Because I find that now I don't have fear when I come across any of the different entities when I'm sleeping or astral projecting or whatever it is.
All right. Well, there you go.
Curiosity.
Yes. Well, it gave you an opportunity through a representation of what you would have a fear reaction for to exercise your ability to transform that fear and let it go.
Okay. Well, that's simple enough. And those are all the questions that I had.
All right. Well, we thank you for the co-creation of this interaction this day of your time. Our unconditional love to you. Aveo.
Thank you. Aveo.
Is ahead of me. It seems like my dad is going to be transitioning soon.
All right.
Spirit. So it seems like he's going to be transitioning to spirit soon, and I'm just trying to be there for him as best as I can.
Yeah.
And
well, what else do you need to do?
I keep on feeling like I need to do something else, but
such as?
Well, I've been, I feel like health-wise, I wish I could have done more for him. Because
do not wallow in regret.
Okay.
Otherwise, you are of no help. Remember that what helps the most is to radiate an energy and a vibration of a positive transition so that that energy infuses the area of his presence and allows him to take advantage of riding that wave and riding that energy more smoothly. The regret in that sense will put up resistance.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
I've been having some interesting dreams lately. One of which I kind of associate with the idea you might have been hearing. There's been a lot of talk about 5G and like the new 5G towers.
Yes.
That are being put up. And one of my dreams, and I had, I saw these big towers like on every block, and they were like huge and black. And at the top of them, there was this big blue LED eye, and it was just like looking at everybody. It was kind of creepy.
Yes.
And I was, okay. And I was just wondering if you could tell us anything about, I know like 5G and if it has any like effects on our physical body that.
It depends.
Okay.
Depending on how it is tuned. If it is tuned properly, it will not necessarily have detrimental effects. But if it is slightly out of phase, it can, to some degree, affect cellular structure and the immunological system of your body. So they must be tuned precisely in a way that is not detrimental to the cellular structure or immune system of your bodies.
Okay, that's what I was kind of thinking. Now, as an individual, is there anything we can do, or is this something that whoever's putting these 5G up has to do?
There is always something you can do.
Okay.
Always.
Right.
Again, by allowing yourself to remain in a positive state, you can to some degree mitigate some of the effects of a poorly tuned system. But again, the idea is you can also interact with those individuals who may be more directly involved with the creation of the technology in order to explore what can be done and share information in a way that will allow you to feel more participatory in what's going on, and may even change the minds of some of the individuals working on the technology for how they can make sure that it is more precisely tuned to the biomagnetic energy and fields of physical humanity and biological forms on your planet so as not to be detrimental.
Okay, thank you. Also, I wanted to bring up this idea of a story. You might have heard of it, or story legend of the planet Venus. I've heard of it as a planet was once like an Earth that went through different phases of initiation and ascension. And, even the name, or the planet Venus, she's referred to as like the morning star, and she's always shining very brightly.
Yeah.
And eventually I've heard that she's to become a sun, like it's like an evolutionary process of planets.
It is not meant in the sense of literal physicalness. You are talking about something that is an interdimensional concept.
Okay.
And a sun in one dimension is not necessarily a sun in your dimension.
Right.
It is the seed, to some degree, the heart, to some degree, of what can be considered a sun in some realities, but it is not a literal description of what is going to happen to the planet in your physical reality.
Okay. I thank you. I just wanted to kind of get a feel on that because it popped into my head, and then I had a dream about it a couple nights ago. I noticed my dreams have been becoming more and more active lately. Right. Yeah.
This may be the result to some degree, again, of breaking down the barriers between one physical reality and parallel realities that will allow them to overlap and allow you to have a more lucid adventure on that realm.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. All right. And then I was wondering if you could talk about the Shalanaya at all and kind of where they are at with connecting with us and interacting with us in this timeline.
They are observing and participating in what is going on now as you all pass through what we are calling the eye of the needle and this transitional pivot point, and how you come out the other side, all of you, will determine the efficacy with which they can maybe continue to communicate and connect with many of you toward the idea of future contact, but also recognizing that some individuals will pass through the eye of the needle in a way where contact may actually be less probable. So they are watching and observing what is going on in this pivotal point as you all pass through what we call the eye of the needle.
Well, great. Thank you so much, Bashar. My love to you and the Esther.
Our unconditional love to you as well. Good day.
Good day.
Hello. And to you, good day.
How are you, Bashar?
Perfect. And you?
Very good. It's nice to see you.
Thank you for the co-creation of the interaction. Please proceed however your imagination so desires.
Sure. Okay. Well, thank you for visiting with us today, and I have a few questions for you.
Yeah.
So I'll just get right to it. I have a question about that I see that's very prevalent right now within the spirituality communities of a lot of people believing in conspiracy theories that don't have a lot of rationality to them. They're seeking to find, and to be honest with you, from a basically self-soothing and a self-serving place, it seems to be things that they're focusing on that really don't help you vibrationally or help you to keep yourself calm about things. I'm speaking, of course, about things like 5G and Bill Gates taking over the planet and stuff like that.
Yes, we understand.
Why is there such a interest in so many people within those communities to find and seek information that is below the radar and say, this is truth, but everything that's kind of scientifically proven and just rational on so many levels in this time-space reality that we live in, why do they seek things that are on that level as their truth, or this has to be happening?
Well, first and foremost, you do realize that now and then there are such things as conspiracies on your planet, yes?
100% agree. Yeah.
All right.
100% agree.
So since that has been, shall we say, laid as a foundation of possibility, and since many people on your planet have been fed a diet of fear-based beliefs for so long, and because people feel disempowered, they will often see the idea of laying out a certain conspiracy theory as a way of gaining control over their world by either aligning with it or rebelling against it to give them some sense of their position in the world, some sense of control